proposition. What is another meaning of proposition? Proposal, proposition. Well, in debate terms, yes, it's like a motion, right? What types of propositions or motions or resolutions or topics? All these words are synonyms, right? Proposition, for example, I don't know, that we should reintroduce school uniforms. That's a proposition. Or that's a resolution. Or that's a motion. Well, we are more used to the word motion because it has its political, connotation, right? And why not topic? Anyone can relate to that word, right? So we have proposition meaning motion, and we have proposition meaning the theme, right? Okay. Do you think these two are separable? No. So my intonation was very manipulative. No. Because if I want to, build a proposition case, how can I do it if I do not know what I'm playing with, right? So I need to know the ingredients if I want to make a good dish, right? So, what I propose for me to do today, a brief description of each type. You may have already some knowledge in that direction. I do not know what your background is. But definitely, if you already know, you will just reinforce that knowledge and you will be better off, okay? Key issues to consider, like the critical aspects in dealing with the motions, the types of motions, examples in point, right? Then we have this very important part, the centrality of values, because no matter the type of the motion, now what are the types you know? How many types of motions are there in all? Three major categories, right? And they are called policy, fact, and value. Right? But this is a very arbitrary separation because value is everywhere. It is. In fact, too, we'll go to that one. So it may be implicit or even explicit. So at the end of the day, you will hopefully understand why value is so important and dealing with that. And of course, there is an overlap between policy and value and so on. So, okay, right. And finally, conclusions, questions, and so on. All right, do you want me to wait for you? Okay. Don't worry, at the end of the day, I have some handouts. I am a teacher, so I can't stand the idea of you guys going back home empty-handed. Of course, not empty-headed. That is out of the question, right? You may be bareheaded, but not empty-headed, right? Okay. But the thing is, I only have a limited number of copies, so maybe if you come from the same, part, you're part of the same delegation, you can just use one, so that others can benefit. And I can also email them to you, don't worry. What I have collected here is, information from different reliable sources or authorities. So it's not my product, right? I'm a little thief. So I just collect it from here, from there, from everywhere. So that I can, give you something that makes sense and is useful, all right? So, okay. I'm really not a fan of lecturing, that is like speaking, and you listening. Because I know at some point you switch off. We are human beings, right? Okay, so do you think I can, all right. All right. Don't worry. This is on handouts as well. Okay? I know it looks daunting. Well, but hopefully I'll be a good guide, right? To help you in and out. So, now we have the three types that you already know by the label, right? Fact and so on. Let's start with the fact motions, right? Well, a definition, a reliable one, would So I have to use some kind of measurement, right? Now, if I can prove what I'm saying by using an objective statement, right, which in its turn uses an objective verification, so how can I find out if Mike is 2 meters tall? Well, I measure him, right? And if at the end, the statement matches the verification, right, that means it's valid. If it doesn't, it is invalid. Is it complicated? Well, that's a simplistic example, right? It's not like that in debatings. You don't just take a meter and measure people or things, but just for you to get an idea. All right? Now let me move over here. There are several types. This is not, I mean, this is very much like terminology. Don't get stressed about the names. You don't need to know them, but they can help you to get a better grasp of the nuances, right? Okay. So because some of them are worded like a policy debate, like a policy motion, and they are not. Surprise, surprise. Okay, so one motion says, this House believes that terrorists should be called freedom fighters. And that's a very challenging motion, right? It's for an advanced level, but you're advanced already. Okay, so if you look at this, right? Oh, this is a policy debate. No, it's not. No, it's not. Because actually, what am I saying here? That terrorists are freedom fighters. That's my description of this reality. Now, how can I get to proving it? Right? How can I, make an objective statement and use an objective verification? And then how do the two match so that what I'm saying is valid? Right? Then we have description. Description, that's easy. When, the propositions assert how people, institutions, processes should be properly described. For example, Maria is a very good friend. Or Maria is a generous person. I'm giving you, another example. That's a description. Or she's selfish. That's a description, right? Okay? All right. Now, I have an example. The freedom of speech is an inviolable right. This sounds like irrefutable. How can you challenge that? Well, you can. No. Okay? All right. Or Iraq is a terrorist nation. Or the opposite, a democratic nation. That is also a motion. So the two of them are clashing, right? Okay. So the proposition would say Iraq is a terrorist nation, and the opposition would say, no, it is a democratic nation. Of relationship, which subdivides into of similarity and of cause and effect, or causality. I know you will relate to this one. Now, of relationship. When the propositions assert some people, objects, institutions, processes, etc., right, are related to one another. So there is a relationship between the two terms, or several terms, right, in the, in the motion. And, well, these relationships are of two kinds. Of similarity, for example, capital punishment is like murder, right? So that is a similarity. And I have to prove this. Because actually, what does capital punishment involve? Killing somebody, right? All right? And, of cause and effect or causality. For example, television reduces the quality of modern life. So, which is the cause? And which is the effect? Can you identify the terms in the relationship? Yeah. Okay.
Television is
The cause.
And the effect is the fact that the reduced.
So life quality is reduced, right? Okay, there is a relationship between the two. So I need to prove that. Okay? That sounds like an easy thing to do, right? Okay. Well, it's not always as simple as it seems. what happened. They can look at a present event and ask the question, what is happening? Or they can predict and say, what will happen? For example, computers will destroy modern civilization. That's a powerful statement, right? So, what was, what is, what will be? Was, is, will be. Did you know these things? That propositions of fact can have all these time placements? No. So that's something new. I'm glad it's new. So if you're not here, you will live with something from here. Okay. For example, an example of a proposition that looks at the fact. John Doe is guilty of first-degree murder. So he did something, right? He committed first-degree murder, and he's guilty of it. An example for the present. The rate of inflation is increasing. That's an economic topic, right? Very much here, unfortunately. I'm talking about the rate, right? It's crazy. The inflation rate, okay? Future. As I said, computers will alter the course of civilization. Alter, not destroy. There's a bit of difference. Many propositions of fact are also entitled or considered historical, right? Or even scientific. Or, you may have the two. For example, Lyndon Johnson's war on poverty exacerbated the problems of poverty in the U.S. How many of you have heard of his name, Lyndon Johnson? He was the 36th president of the U.S. He followed JF Kennedy. Kennedy was assassinated, and Lyndon Johnson had to finish Kennedy's term, and then he was elected in his own term, in his own defeat. And he really was very ambitious as a president. He wanted to do very good things, and one of the things, ambitious things, he embarked upon was the so-called war on poverty, right? I'm not going to tell you more about this. You can, Google it and find more. So that's a topic, and it is a historical one, very interesting to look at. Get to know some history, some facts, economic facts as well, and so on. And the scientific one, the one, for example, about computers altering, the course of civilization. That doesn't sound like a scientific one, but it is. You have to really come up with something technical, provable, and so on. All right? Let me see how we're doing for time. Okay. Are we good? Is it too much? Stressful? So if you can put a smile on the faces, then I feel good in my shoes. Okay. All right. So don't worry, you have this on paper, right? Okay. So don't get stressed about it. Okay. Because if I wait for you to take notes, I never get to the end of the road. At least as far as being here is concerned, because the end of the road is like an end. Okay. But guys, by what you do and continue doing, you will make a difference. And your end of the road will be the beginning of other people's roads, right? And a wonderful definition of success that I read in a book goes like this. There is no success without successors. Wonderful. So, what's the point of me being an expert in my field if I just die with it, with what I know? I take it with me into the grave. What's the point? Right? Okay. Value. Very important. So, propositional value requires the affirmative to persuade the judges and audiences to accept an opinion or a value. Right? So what are the tasks, right? The bare bones of what you need to do when dealing with a value proposition. You have to provide a general definition of the value term Yeah, it is. Yeah, okay. I just extracted from there because to me, it spoke volumes. I mean, it's really wonderful, you know, to illustrate what I want to say. And you can relate to it. Others are more complex. You need to do research in order to understand. So I don't want to really, you know, like keep you or put you in the dark and keep you there while I'm on top of the world. No. Okay. Now, can you identify the value term in this motion? What is a value term or evaluative term?
Outweighs.
Outweighs. It is, if I say this is Shakespeare was better than, let's say, Tolstoy. Right? So I compare Shakespeare to Tolstoy, and what is the value term? Better. Better. Okay, let me put it in, alright, like this. Okay. The general definition of outweighs, right? Okay, you can just go lexically about it. What does it mean? Can you paraphrase? So it is more important. More important. Okay. So I have, on the one hand, the security of a society, on the other hand, individual freedoms. And I need to show that, you know, one is more important than the other. Okay. This is the general definition. Now the specific one, right? The specific, because I'm not talking in the void, right? Or in the desert. I have a context, right? So this is called the contextual definition for the value. Could you identify the contextual part in the statement? I mean, that means the context where I place this, you know, thing. So what is the context? Is it like something that doesn't have any belonging, so it's like kind of inspiration given by the Holy Spirit? Which is wonderful, but there is still a context. Even then, there is a context. Are we talking about this comparison in what kind of societies? When, where?
In communism?
No. In democratic societies. So I need to somehow establish the playfield. You know, like I need a map, a road map, so that I know where I'm going, right? Otherwise, I just look at two terms in the abstract and what? I need to, you know, we are dealing with real people, real problems in the real world, right? That's the context. Okay, this is something that you will get used to by way of practice. Don't worry about it. You are more familiar with fluency, right? That is something you can readily relate to. So you have to provide standards of measurement, right? Or criteria, yes.
Sorry, madam. Not wanting us to go back or anything.
Uh-huh.
But you were, before we had said like outweighs is the value term, you were about to like tell us how to identify like value terms. And like, are they comparative? Like, are they always comparative? Or
They encapsulate a value in that. So there is an inherent value with better, worse, I don't know, more important, more relevant, outweighs, right? I don't know. So there is always a value there that you are dealing with, right? Okay. So I don't know. If I say dogs are better than cats, that's a fine emotion. Which is the value term? Better. Is this hard to identify? I don't think so. Oh, by the way, in contrast to the fact motion, the fact motion deals with is, not is good or bad or worse, just is. You understand the difference, right? Okay. So, criteria, standards of measurement. Right? How do I know that dogs are better than cats? I need a criterion or some criteria. So you have to use them to show that you have justified your value. You do not compare the two terms, one with the other, just like that. You need a third party so that you objectify what you're saying. It's not just in the abstract and subjective. Okay? So then you have to provide proof, right? Okay, you have to prove what you have said. Proof that supports the criteria. Now, propositions of value subdivide into simple value propositions. Simple. One term, not two. Abortion is an immoral act. What is the value term? Immoral, right? Okay. Well, they can be comparative value propositions. Capital punishment is more humane than life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Exactly, right. And, or individual autonomy is more important than community, again, like social security and individual freedoms. So is it complicated? No. All right? So I will leave time for questions, right? So I just need to fit in the time, okay? That's my problem in general. Time is a problem. Okay. Okay. That's the most complex to me. Policy propositions. Definition. A proposition of policy, right, recommends taking a certain action. And not only recommends, defends that, supports that, right? Because if I just say, oh, you need to do something about it, okay. That is about taking action, but I need to prove that that's what you need to do. So you need to also defend, not just recommend. But this is like a simple definition to give you a sense of direction, okay? Now, what do we need to do? You know. So these are the stock issues. If I can use a specialized term, like the lines, the layers, right, that we need to look at, right, the stock issues. So the first one is you must prove that there is a need to change the current policy or the status quo, right? Okay? Because the situation is harmful. Because there is a problem. There is an ill, or there is a harm. So different names for the same thing. A problem, an ill, a harm, right? They all mean the same. Okay? Your harm could be the people who die or are injured, have psychological pain, lose their quality life, are subjected to a lower standard of living, or lose their independence, etc. because of the current situation, right? So the current situation, the current policy, current system is the cause of the problem of a lot of pain, of a lot of suffering, and so on. Yes? Right. You must prove that there is a significant need. That's important. It's not enough to say, well, there is a need for a change. Because the opposition may stand up and say, that need is not that important. We can still go on with the current situation. Right? So the problem is not important enough. That is not damaging enough. We can still live, right? Okay? Can still survive. So you must prove that there is a significant need. In some cases, you might want to show how many people are affected by the current situation, the current policy. For example, in an environmental discussion, you describe how the environmental problem impacts humans or affects an ecological system, right? If you're dealing with such a topic. Impact on humans, impact on the ecological system, right? Or you would prove that some values, such as a culture, is being lost by current action, right? For example, as a result of globalization and so on, national culture, national traditions, national customs, are, slowly dying, right? On the verge of extinction. And you can even give examples of cultures, languages that have already died, right? Not because of globalization, in the course of history, right? This has happened, which is sad. Because as a human race, we lose something of our very essence, and we become a human race. That's another discussion. You must prove inherency. Inherency. That means that the status quo or the current system is not solving the problem. It's not solving the significant problem. And if we continue like this, we'll die. Well, you understand. So something really bad will happen if we don't take action now. And in such a debate, timing is really important for the proposition. To say, well, we can't waste any more time. Now is the time to take action and produce a change, right? All right. So you need to show how it exists, how this inherency exists, and that it allows the harm to continue. It allows the ill to be done, and people to suffer, and even die. Right. Another stock issue is you must provide a plan or a model, the same thing, to solve the problem, the solution. Okay, I understand that there is a significant need to do something, to make a change. How? So the plan is, the one to give you a solution, to eliminate or reduce the problem. Because in some cases, elimination is not possible. So the plan has 4 individual characteristic points. It's like the components of the plan. And they're also called, in other terminology, the planks of the plan. Don't worry. Planks. P-L-A-N-K-S. The planks of the plan. The main point. So it's like, okay, what do we need? We need the agent of action, who is doing what. And the agent may be an individual, a group, an organization, or the government, right? Who? Okay. Then we need a mandate. Mandate is the action that needs to be taken in order to produce the change, right? Well, some specifics like financing, funds, the costs, and so on, right? And here the opposition may stand up and say, well, how much does a human life value? Or what is the value of the human, how much is it worth? 2 pounds, 10 pounds, £1 million, and so on, right? So this is a higher goal. It's like human life. How can you? The hierarchy of values, right? Okay, money is important, money matters. But how about the human life? How do you quantify the importance of a human life? Okay. And enforcement. Very important. The enforcement has to do with a specific agency, the means, the medium, right, the way that will implement the mandate. Okay, so we have, the problem is, okay, right, I agree with you. The opposition can attack any of these, right? So being an opposition is really more, how should I say, a friendlier situation, because there is never a perfect crime. It's impossible for the opposition to miss, for a good opposition, to miss something in all these edifice of building, right? So they can attack the agent. No, not the state, or not the organization, the NGO, you name it, but the state. Okay, and they have a point there. Or they can say, no, this doesn't do any good. It doesn't really solve the problem. So we suggest this other action, right? Again. Or all the costs I have just told you. How about how much is worth, how much is a human life worth, right? Or enforcement, okay, all is beautiful, but it is not a realistic plan. It is not applicable in the real world. That makes sense? Okay. Right. So we are still, these are the stock issues, right? Okay. So I dealt with the plan. And now what else do we need to do? A lot of things, right? Prove the solvency. That is how the plan will reduce or solve the problem. Because this is beautiful. But how will it work? Is feasibility of it? What is the practicality of it? Because it's all idealistic. Ideal and idealistic. If you don't have any, way of really making it a reality. It remains a utopia, right? Provide advantages and other benefits, additional benefits to the plan. What are the gains? What are the advantages? What are some additional benefits that may result, by implementing the plan? Did you know these things? I mean, did you have them like this? No. Because you see what you find bits. It depends on where you come from, what information you have, you have acquired so far, and, everyone is well meant. But you just need to have things in one place so that you have a better understanding, right? Okay. Okay. But I will write something here, right? Instead of there. It's one of my favorite quotes. So, the person who pays an ounce of principle for a pound of popularity gets badly cheated. And this belongs to Ronald Reagan. Do you know who? Yeah? Do you know? Lyndon Johnson was the 36th president. Do you know the number? The 40th. Right? 40th president of the US. Okay. So what do you think? What kind of motion is this? Fact. Yeah? Okay. How do you identify that? Gets badly cheated? Okay. So you see an action verb, right? You can also have the verb to be there. But you understand? Yes. It is a fact. I mean, it describes a reality. A possible reality. Because you need to prove that this is so, this is valid, right? But you see in it, we have values, right? Don't we? Well, this is a fact motion. The value is there. So this has to do with what I told you earlier. The centrality of value. Value is and will be there, implicitly or explicitly. So what are the terms that are compared inside the fact motion? You see? So it's like a combination of what? Of a comparative value. We have two terms in comparison and a fact. Right? So we have what? Paying an ounce of principle versus gaining a pound of, in order to gain, right? A pound of popularity. How would you, what would you do about it? How would you tackle it? I know it's tough. But first of all, does it make sense? Yes, it does. It is something that we see in our world, right? More and more. It's, like gaining ground because people are more and more willing to pay not just an ounce of principle, but give up an entire principle and give up principles and values and character, like integrity, you know, in order to become popular, right? Even if it was for like 5 seconds or 5 minutes. For the sake of popularity, for the sake of becoming somebody, even if just for a little while, that is like an end in itself, right? So on the surface of things, this is good. Because that person may become rich overnight, you know, a celebrity, and have a lifestyle, live in luxury, you know. That is on the surface. Lots of goodies. Now, how about at a deeper level? When he stops existing, when he gets out of the picture, that will happen. Do you think he will be remembered in any way? But before that, how about his family? How about the ones who are dear to him? Do you think such a person will lie to himself or herself? Deep down, they know they are not happy with themselves, right? They know what they have done. They know the price they have paid. They are not happy with themselves, even if they don't confess, right? Anything of the kind, right? So they really get badly treated, even if they live in luxury. Okay? All right. That's something like food for thought. You know, I love quotes. Okay, now it's time for questions. Okay, I'll just give away some, okay, so I have like 10 copies of what I have put on the board with more detail and so on. I don't know how to go about it, maybe you can help me. I will not get one because I can give you. Okay, right. So, but what delegations do you have? You have, all right, India. All right.
South Africa.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so let me check. The rest of you. So you are from?
Croatia.
Croatia. Right, big event last night.
Yes.
Okay. Here? Where are you from?
Slovenia.
Slovenia. Okay. Alright. How about you guys? You also Croatia? Okay, I have like 4 spares. Okay, I'll give one to the ladies. It's only fair. Alright, how about the rest of you guys? From where? Oh, okay, and you?
Slovenia.
Okay. You're from Croatia.
You have some left.
Yes. Okay, what's more? Okay. Ask and you will be given. If you don't ask, you know, nothing happens. Okay, and then, would you like one more? That's it. Now I'll give you something more. What I have here is like sample cases structure for you to get a model to have like a value term. Alright? So, okay, and you are, okay, part of the same delegation. So you have 2, right? Okay. 1, 2. Alright. So I think I have 11 copies. Alright. And we now meeting later on for exercises. I have some more stuff to give away. So I know how important that is. So just talking. It's wonderful. Just go back. Just go back. Alright? You need some concrete stuff. Alright, some questions guys. Conclusions, remarks. Oh, what have you learned? Let me go back. Square one. Let me check what my students have learned. Right? We did these two. Now, what have you learned? Randomly. It doesn't have to be in any order or, just off the top of your head.
Ronald Reagan was the fourth.
40th president of the US. That's great. And Lyndon Johnson? 36. That's good. Okay, that's something you need to capitalize on. Okay, what else?
Plan.
The plan. What is another name for the plan? What are the components, the points, the plan points?
Agent of action.
Okay.
Mandate.
Yeah,
Mandate. What is a mandate?
The action.
The action, okay. Funding or finances, yes? And enforcement. Okay. Now, what are some of the stock issues? Like a big loss of ideas that you have to do. There is a need for a change. And this need is significant or important. What else? Inherency. What's the inherency?
The status is
It's not solving this significant problem. And I would suggest using some words. Because you have no. Status quo, that's okay, but make sure people know the code. Because status quo comes from Latin. Some pronounce it Latin, status quo, which is okay. But if you go English, it's status quo. But maybe, just maybe, be on the safe side. Make sure the other team and the judge share the code. Because if they don't, what's the good of it? It sounds good, but it's ineffective, right? Current system, current policy, current situation, right? Okay, so I lost it.
Use these words.
Okay, significant is important. So you prove that the need is significant. Then when you go to the inherency part, so the current situation is not solving our or this significant need. Use words. Significant. Be convinced and convincing as a result, right? Okay, what else do we have as a stock issue? After inheritance. Providing a plan or a model with what it has to have, the ingredients, okay? Then the solvency. Does the plan, okay? Right? Okay, good. So, sounds like a lot of work, and it is. But just, try and keep it simple. Right? The wording is important, because if you use a lot of words, you know what happens? It's time consuming, right? So, being concise, they say brevity is the soul of wit. Brevity is being brief, right? All right. Okay. It's a Latin dictum, but I'll give it to you in English, right? So brevity. So look at the noun. The adjective is brief, but the noun is brevity. Because of the suffix, there is a change in the spelling, in the pronunciation. All right? I'm the teacher of English here. So brevity is the soul of wit. I don't know exactly being wise and so on, right? So, if you get your message across by being brief, to the point, clear, accurate, then you have it all. That's something you gain time by practicing. And I would like to take this opportunity and invite you to my elective. I don't know when this is going to be, and it's like I have to be on the standby. So maybe tomorrow or on Wednesday. And it is on critical thinking. Very useful. It is something that is not really done when, in preparation for debating, but it's critically important for you to have some knowledge about it. And you'll also have handouts, plenty, to take home, right? Because, why am I saying that? Applying the standards, the universal standards of excellence, and they are clarity, relevance, concision, significance, and so on. They are so important in addressing a question or an intervention, or in really making a speech, and so on. If you can be